בשבת ומועדי קודשך, באהבה ורצון, בשמחה וששון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת בישראל והזמנים. And we join in Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu v'yamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Fine. It's Shabbat. We're going to sing L'chad Odi to welcome the Sabbath bride. We don't have that song in this prayer book, but we all know the chorus. So when we reach B'Lev Shalom, we'll rise together as a congregation in person, and we will welcome that Sabbath bride and rejoice in being together, whether you're with us on live stream or you're here with us outside of Temple Beth-El, welcoming Shabbat together. To the left of you, turn to the right of you, turn behind you. Wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. It's great to be with all of you. We turn now to page 130 as we remain standing through the Shema. 42, we read Ma'ariv Aravim together, praising God for the gift of creation. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bidbaro Ma'ariv Aravim, V'chokhmah Poteach She'arim, Uvit'vuna Meshane Itim, Umachalif Et Hazmanim, Umisader Et HaKochavim, V'mishmerotehem Barakia Kirtzono, Horei Yom V'Layla, Golel Or Mitnei Choshech V'Choshech Mitnei Or, Uma'avir Yom Umevi Layla, Umabdil Ben Yom Uvein Layla, Adonai Tzevaot Shema. El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Ata Adonai, HaMa'ariv Aravim. On page 136, we continue with the Shema. We continue on page 142, praising God for the gift of redemption as we sing Mi Chamocha. On page 146, we continue with V'Shamru as we celebrate the gift of Shabbat and remind ourselves of how important it is to take the opportunity to rest, to separate our regular week from our weekend, to give ourselves the right and the opportunity to refresh so we're able to face the week anew.
We continue now with the Amidah on page 204, so we'll give you a few seconds to flip to page 204. And when you are there, I would invite you to please rise for our Amidah. We continue on page 209, and we're going to read responsively. Remember those whose hearts poured out to you like water, who trusted the journey would lead to you. For Abraham and Sarah's faith do not withhold water. Remember the one chosen for her words, please take some water. And remember the one whose blood was almost spilled like water.
For Rebekah and Isaac's righteousness granted water.
Remember how Jacob crossed the river to wrestle in the waters of his conscience. Recall the sisters' tears, their waters of birth, their tents of peace.
Jacob, Rachel, and Leah filled the earth with needed water.
For blessing and not for curse. For life and not death. For abundance, not want.
Amen.
Page 210. You may be seated. Page 214. You have chosen us in love and favor by making us holy through your mitzvot and drawing us close to your service. that through us your great and holy name may become known in all the earth. In your love, Adonai our God, you have given us Shabbatot of rest, feasts of gladness, and seasons of joy. This Shabbat day and this festival of Simchat Torah, season of rejoicing, to unite in worship and recall the Exodus from Egypt. Page 216. We read together. Our God and God of our ancestors, be mindful of your people Israel and recall our merit for good and grace, and in loving kindness and compassion for life and peace on this festival of Simchat Torah. This day remember us for well-being. This day bless us with your nearness. Amen. This day help us to a fuller life. Amen. At this time, we think of those who face the future not fully whole, those who are in need of healing of mind, of body, and of spirit. At this time, when we are dealing with a pandemic, we think of all of those who need our prayers a little bit more because of complications of COVID or those fears of isolation and anxiety. We take a moment, think of those names out loud as we join together in Mishaber, which can be found on page 247. We take a moment now for our own silent prayer.
So it is Simchat Torah, and in most years we would now take out our Torah and roll the entire scroll. We would all stand in a big circle, touching the Torah, really close to each other. It's not going to happen. But we still want to celebrate the joy of finishing the book of Deuteronomy, starting the book of Genesis, and as we always do, we're still going to share in a tour of Torah. We're going to get a little silly. It's not Purim yet, but we're still going to hopefully have some fun and share with you some of the highlights, some of the major personas in the stories of the Bible. And we're going to do that in costume. And so, Cantor, you're going to start. You need your beard, you need your costume. All right.
And this made God very sad. I listened to God and built a huge boat and prayed my ark could really float. God told me what I had to do, so I brought on the animals 2 by 2. The turtles and dogs fit, they were small, but the elephants and giraffes were big and tall. It was smelly and loud for 40 days and nights, but I knew we were safe, all packed in tight. God took care of me and my family too, and all of the animals in our floating zoo.
Thanks, Noah. I am Abraham. I know you can tell. Canaan or bust. I live in Haran, but God told me go. I've got big plans for you. You need room to grow. God said that I would be the first Jew, but what did that mean? I had no clue. God would make my family as numerous as the stars. And God promised our family a land to call ours. This brit is forever a promise to keep between God and the Jews that is honest and deep. We will be safe and protected and blessed when we do good in the world, our eternal quest. I'm going to keep the beard on and be Eliezer. This is my camel. I was a servant in Abraham's house, so he sent me to find Isaac a spouse. I went on my camel off to the well to meet a nice woman, a mademoiselle. I asked God to give me a sign when I met the right woman, someone honest and kind.
When Eliezer showed up, he looked thirsty and tired, so I brought him my jug as duty required. But his camel needed some water too. So I refilled my jug and made trip number 2. Then I offered Eliezer a place to rest, to stay the night and be our guest.
As I ate a meal, I told my tale of Isaac, and then like a fairy tale, Rebekah said, yes, I will marry that man. And thus we fulfilled Abraham's plan.
I loved my husband and the twins we had. Our people were growing. This made God glad.
I lost my tablet. Where to begin? My story's full and bold. It's tales of wonder so often told. As a boy in a basket, I went down the Nile, raised in the palace in comfort and style. After killing a guard, I ran away from my land. I found a new home out there in the sand. God spoke to me from the flames of a bush. All I need to lead was that little push. Pharaoh refused to let the Israelites go, so 10 plagues befell him and filled him with woe. At long last he listened and finally agreed. The Jewish people marched onward, finally free.
Yes, good. I am Aaron. Being a stand-in for Moses was no walk in the park. As he camped out on Sinai, I was left in the dark. The people grew restless, tired, and aggrieved. It was clear that their cries weren't being received. So they hatched up a plan, something uncool and rash. They constructed an idol, a huge golden calf. Moses lashed out in anger when he saw what they'd done, and God levied a punishment onto everyone. Perhaps it was harsh, but a quick look and you'll see. It was clear that they'd broken commandments 1, 2, and 3.
All right. We're waiting for the third of Zelophehad's daughters. Quickly. I can only read this row for so long.
Zelophehad was our father. He was loved like no other. We're all his daughters. We have no brothers.
All his land, when he died, we weren't allowed to inherit, because at that time the rules said we had no merit.
So we went to Moses and stated our case, that we had a right to women's rights and our father's place.
Moses spoke with God and they made it so, and from there, women's rights would continue to grow.
So no matter your gender, you have a right to your claim.
To receive all that was earned from your parents' name. We're spies. Caleb, Joshua. The Israelites wandered for 40 years, and soon the promised land was near. Then, before our people could enter the land, Moses got scared at the thought of a plan.
Spies, he cried. It's spies we need. So we raised our hands and we agreed to scope out the land and see what was in store before the Israelites went to war.
We explored the land for 40 days. I loved it so. It was quite a nice place. But when we returned, some other spies lied. They told Moses the bad things, all magnified.
They claimed giants ruled over powerful towns, and if we go to fight, it won't take many rounds for them to defeat us. The people were crying, but we wouldn't have it. All of this lying.
So I stepped forward, said we could win. God didn't free us from slavery just to give in.
So I joined in, added my name to the plea, and soon I led the Israelites to victory.
And look at that. We made it to Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Take it out. There we go. Okay. Now, we are going to take our Torahs from the Ark. We are going to have a Torah parade in a different kind of way than usual. We're going to lead the parade with the Torahs instead of passing Torahs from people to people or person to person, but we have special Torah flags. Traditionally, we have Israeli flags that we fly and shake and hold during our Torah parade. This year, the back of each one has a different Torah portion on it. So you will be holding part of Torah, even if you're not physically holding Torah, and joining us in our parade as we listen to music. So we will ask you to please rise in honor of the Torah as we share in some blessings. Joel, who has a beautiful flag for you, will meet you there, and you can follow us as we do our 7 hakafot.
את ירושלים גילובה, גילובה כל אוהביה כל אוהביה. עשו את ירושלים גילובה, גילובה כל אוהביה. עשו את ירושלים גילובה
We're going to conclude our service. You can keep standing as we, actually let's do it because we're going to, actually can't remember because we're going to open the ark right now anyway for Elaine. So we're going to do 8's time on page 251.
Continue with Elena on page 323. With our memorial meditation. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. Our thoughts turn now to those in our community who have died at this time in years past. As we mark their yard sites, we remember them. Samuel Abrams, Audrey Allen, Morris Barkin, Fred Battle, Rose Marion Berg, Faye Berger, Kay Butnick Berger, Rosalie Brenner, Sydney Bretler, Carl Berg, Claire Burnett, Charles Seth Chandler, Anna Tarnaninsky, William Austin Dougherty II, Nicholas Barnett, Adolph Fraley, Fanny Friedman, Avram Gabai, Aaron Gernsbacher, Herman Glosserman, Hyman W. Glavinsky, Irving Goldberg, Bessie Golden, J.Y. Golden, Dr. Samuel J. Goldhaber, Manny Goldsmith, Dr. Ronald Goldstone, Michael Seymour Gorlick, Fanny Gerwitz, John Halstead, Helen Jacobson, Rabbi Isaac Jaffa, Frank Kelsoff, Mary Kimmel, Rollins Miller Coppa, Fritz Lauber, Irving Lauber, Anne Levine, Leah Lefton, Leon W. Lehman, Clementina Lieja, Isabella Levison, Frank Hart Lichtenstein, Paul Mann, Rivian Cookie Donzis Markey, Modena Gentry Marshall, Robert W. Meals, Ethel Weinberg Meyer, Frank Olson, Jesse Half Oppenheimer, Norma Conring Parker, Jack Perloff, Lena Peters, Barry Ream, Herbert Rifkin, Jean Charlotte Ritterband, Catherine Rosenman, Berta Rosenthal, William Joseph Rubin, William Patrick Rudd, Gerald Schifrin, Esther Simon, Goldie Stein, John Robert Stevens, Michael Lee Strickland, and Ethan Zimmerman. To these names we add those who died in the past month, whose families are in a mourning period of shloshim. We remember Betty House, Rosalie Jean Hardy, Edward Eddie A. Dukin, Abigail Abby Michelson, Teresa Gell, Andrea Lackman, Rizelle Bloom, and Dr. Daniel Eduardo Dumetman. To all of these names we add those which are in our hearts each and every day as we join together in Kaddish Yatom on page 334. And I ask you all to rise as one congregation. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma v'yirach v'yirkei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah m'varach le'olam umei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitfa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei v'kudashah b'richut. Le'ela mikol berachata v'shiata, tishbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'ema v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, uya asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace on us and all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated.
Before our closing song, Dr. Benedict, do you each want to wave and say Shabbat Shalom? All right. Our closing song is very thematic. Torah is known as a tree of life, and so we're going to sing Tree of Life.
Tree of life to them that'll last to it, all of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to them that'll last to it, all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, Modim Simcha. It was wonderful to be with all of you. Of course, now the sun is just setting. It is no longer incredibly hot. But we'll be back here trying it again next Shabbat, 6:30 p.m. Maybe it'll be fall by next week. We can only hope. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos. All right, Joe, back.